Hi, I'm Tim Cuprisin, the media columnist at OnMilwaukee.com. Welcome to OnMedia, where every week we talk about what's going on in media. And today we have a special guest from radio in Milwaukee, a very familiar voice, Patti Genko. Welcome,
Hi,
Patti.
thank you for having me. Good to see you finally. We've been Facebook and Twitter friends and email friends
we've
forever.
Talked on the phone.
Exactly.
And, you know, it's the funny thing about newspaper work when I was in newspapers is that you really often didn't see people in person. You talked to them on the phone. And now this is a good chance to get together and see you. But you're here for kind of a sad reason, I think.
Well, I think it's an exciting reason.
Well, the reason is that you're sort of changing your career focus. For many, many years you've been on the radio in Milwaukee, WKLH,
yes.
I think your longest run.
Yes.
You've decided to end your traditional radio career.
Well, I kind of have semi-retired, and just like James Bond, you know, you never say never. But if there was the right offer, you know, I could be persuaded. But at the same time, there's so many exciting things out there, Tim. So why not explore that? I have my side business, which I've done since 1991, Patti Genko Communications, which I am able to do audio and video productions, help clients with their marketing and their PR, help them with their event planning, branding, etc. So that's very exciting, and it gives me all sorts of kind of a foot into radio and TV and print. I still can communicate with all those folks that I know and help my clients to get on TV and radio and print ads about their events. So
well, let's start out with recent history.
Sure.
Last couple of years, you've been doing smooth jazz. You've been on the what was the smooth jazz station,
right.
WJZX, and they went through a format change. Correct.
Smooth Jazz 106.9, and after working in classic rock radio for many years, since probably 1978 or 79, rock and classic rock, I really found myself very much drawn to the smooth jazz format. And there is crossover there. There's Steely Dan, there's Michael McDonald of the Doobie Brothers. There's many artists that are sort of crossover between classic rock and smooth jazz. And I'd go to a few of these smooth jazz shows that we have in the Milwaukee area, Kettle Moraine Jazz Fest and the Jazz on the Vine up at the Osthoff. And they were such fun events, and they were folks that were, you know, of my age and my interests, and they, you know, loved the same things. They loved traveling and nice hotels, spa experiences, a glass of wine. It was just really a relaxed crowd.
And it's a relaxed kind of musical format.
It was a relaxed format, and I was put in charge at 106.9 at Smooth Jazz of operations and being the only local DJ.
He was the only local voice.
Full time.
Yeah.
We did have a part-timer, Karita Jones, who helped me quite a bit on the weekends and had a regular shift, but I was the only full-time person, and the rest of the time we were on satellite with well-known jazz musicians like Dave Cause and Brian Culbertson, and it was a great time. We had a great 3-year run. So
now at the time of the format change, I talked to Tom Jarris, who runs Saga radio stations,
yes.
of which WKLH is one, The Hog is another, and Smooth Jazz was. And he said at that time that nobody's going to lose their jobs, and he mentioned you by name. He said, Patti's been a loyal employee for many, many years, and we'll find some place for her.
Right.
But you decided that this was a good time.
Well, yeah, I did. I decided it was a good time. They gave me a couple of different options, and I really had the passion to do the smooth jazz. I was also working 9 to midnight voice tracking, the KLH show in the evenings. So folks could hear me on during the day on smooth jazz and in the evenings on KLH, and it was great to hear from them.
Now let me stop you there for a minute. Explain to people what voice tracking is.
Sure, voice tracking is when you tape your program. So after I would finish my program at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Smooth Jazz, I would throw a couple of switches and I would tape my show on KLH. So you could hear the music coming down, maybe 30 seconds of the music, and then I'd open the mic, and in the audition mode I would record a couple of sentences, and then I would, you know, hit a button, and so in the evening it would all, the magic of digitalization, it would all put it together so it would sound like I was
It wouldn't take you, you wouldn't do 3 hours of recording.
It would take me maybe 45 minutes to an hour at the most for a 3-hour program.
I think sometimes people don't realize that a lot of shows, especially late at night, are voice tracked. That they have the appearance of being a live show.
Right.
Did people think did you get the sense that people thought you were doing a live show?
Many times people would say, how do you do that? How do you work all day and then stay up till midnight and work in the evening? I would just say, it's the magic of radio. It's a way for stations to, these days save money, because that's a big factor. There's so much competition in radio. People can listen to CDs, MP3s, satellite. I have a Droid telephone, and when I got that and plugged that into my auxiliary in my dashboard, I'm listening to radio in Arizona at the Coyote at Smooth Jazz.
It's amazing.
Really amazing. You can listen worldwide, and I found that on the Smooth Jazz Facebook. We had over 2,100 listeners, and I would hear from people from Europe all the time, London, and I've got a friend in Greece who says, "Come and visit me in Greece." It's amazing that it's opened up a whole new world, and listening and streaming radio online or through your telephone, through your iPhone, your Droid, your smartphone, can open up a whole new world of radio and new friends and new experiences. So it's very exciting.
Now, radio. The upside of radio is that you can get radio from all over the world. The downside is that local radio is losing more and more personalities. You were at a station where you were the only real full-time local voice. That's a sad trend, isn't it? I mean,
it is. I think there's always a place for local radio. I think there will always be a place, because folks want to hear about how the Brewers are doing, how the Packers are doing, what's going on with events in Milwaukee, what's happening at Summerfest, what's going on at the museum. I think there's really a place for that, and that local radio will always have listeners and always have an audience. But there's just so many choices that I think local radio needs to be smarter and needs to be more savvy in the way that they market, to capture those listeners and to make sure that they are still a vital part of their programming. I could see even more interaction. I mean, we've got the Facebook, of course, but I think there's a way to be even more interactive with our radio listeners instantaneously, so that they really do feel that they are part of their local programming. And I think there's a way there to hook them in more and to make them more.
You're active on Twitter and on Facebook,
I am.
and
yes,
and you
I
have
my
that
own website.
and your own website.
Yep.
And let's talk a little bit more about radio. Then we'll go into your not new, but your sort of new focus.
Yes.
You said you'd been in rock radio and then in classic rock radio. Maybe some memories of radio back in the days when FM radio was much more sort of underground than it is now.
Very much so. And I just went to a college reunion last fall. I went to Western Illinois University. I grew up in Northern Illinois, so that was my in-state school to save my folks money. So we had a radio station and television station when I was at Western Illinois University, and majored in broadcast, etc. So then we had albums, of course, and we didn't have anybody programming our stations. So there was many times that you'd be running around in the last minute of a song, pulling an album and throwing it on a turntable and trying to cue it up with a needle. I mean, it was crazy. And just having a really loose atmosphere, growing up listening to Chicago radio. I remember listening to FM radio, to the station with the girls, WIS, I think it was SDM or something like that, WSDM. And there were a lot of women DJs there that were just starting out. And when I was 16 or 17, I wanted to do that. That's what I really wanted to do. So I was very much focused on trying to get into radio. Right out of college, I sent air checks, which are, DJ tapes, to radio stations like The Loop in Chicago, thinking I might get a part-time job, hoping. Of course, I had no experience. So at any rate, it was great listening to that, because it just seemed unformatted and people really just talked to you. And we went through a whole period then with Top 40 and people talking at you and being readers. And I think that with smooth jazz and some of the formats, now it's come back around where you can really be more one-on-one with your listeners and be
it's smooth jazz. I mean,
genuine.
It was a loyal audience. It was a sort
Absolutely.
of it was a community. There was a smooth jazz community.
Very much.
And I do think that actually local radio is losing so much of that. And you talked about back in those days, no programmers. I mean, you don't pick the music as the person.
Right.
I think listeners still don't know that you have really no say in the music.
We have very little say. At Smooth Jazz, I was able to suggest music. I was able to pick some of my music. I had interviews with the artists, and when I'd have an interview with Brian Culbertson or Dave Claus or Eric Marienthal, I could actually bring in my own CDs or download music into the system to play different tracks than you would hear. So I loved having that little bit of freedom. But mostly everything is programmed by the program director, and everything is researched, and there's audience testing, and it's all dependent on ratings and whatnot. And now the rating system's changing again, so that's also of concern to programmers if we will be able to have
And so now
listeners.
You're going into basically a media relations business, a media marketing, and
and I've been doing that since 1991. And like I said, I enjoy that. I'm able to work with a variety of clients, a variety of different businesses, whether it's a wine shop, whether it's a hotel, whether it's a restaurant. I really enjoy helping them, seeing results that I can